My friend, take a deep breath before you begin this journey with me today. Seriously, take a breath. I will take it. I was just announcing on my Instagram, Derek Israel Official, if you want to follow me there. I was just announcing on my Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat that this is gonna be one of the most transformative episodes of our lifetime. And I will deliver on that promise. So that's why I'm asking you and telling you, you should be breathing right now. Because after this episode, you will never, ever, ever will perceive politics and government the same again. And there is no way back after this episode. It is not like you can erase what you will learn here. It is not like you can fuse with a stream of pure consciousness and then go back to old ways, to old ego, to old versions of yourself. And yeah, when we talk about personal development, obviously there's a cycle in which the ego expand and contract. We're going to talk about more of that in the future. But in this particular subject, at least in my case, I haven't seen or perceived any setback after I developed this political supreme consciousness. So I have been enjoying this macro perspective for maybe for 1 or 2 years now. I must confess, this has not been my consciousness my entire life. Okay, I am not a political guru. I am not a political visionary in my nature, like in my from my beginnings. No, I was the total opposite. My whole life, I have been changing my ways in the last 2 years, but the first 25 years of my life, I was very unconscious in politics, probably as you are right now, because I didn't have enough interest in on it. Like I was like, that's boring for me. I like better psychology. I like better philosophy. I like better this and that. Politics, yeah, kind of. But even when I was desiring and contemplating the idea of becoming a lawyer, and I knew that I have to study political science because that is one of the ways that you can become a lawyer. Even then, I didn't quite open a book about politics or nothing like that. So no judgment if you are not political aware in this stage of your life. I was just like you, but one day I just decided, man, I'm a political animal, and you will learn a little bit about that philosophy here. I'm a political animal. I am a political being. I am living in a political ecosystem. There's no way around it unless I need to, or unless I go to a forest and live by myself. And even then, I am subject to political uh, phenomena. For example, if a nuclear war hits the forest, or a nuclear bomb hits the forest where I am, well, I died. I died due to a political war or due to a political phenomenon, even when I was in the forest without politics. So there's no, if you're living in Earth right now, you are living in politics. Even if you are living in Mars, in this hypothetical sample, let's say that you are living in Mars and you are there, building a base for humanity, and you are with a Russian fellow, right? You are a United States astronaut and you are there with a Russian fellow, and you are both working there. You are very good friends, and then Russia versus United States war explode in the earth, right? And then United States say you cannot come back to Earth because you have a Russian fellow with you. And Russia said, hey, you cannot also come back to Earth because you have a United States colleague with you and he may be a spy. So you two will stay there until we find a solution back on Earth. So even if you are on Mars, in this hypothetical example, even if you are out of Earth, you are still subject to politics. There is no way around it. So, this episode, my friend, will awaken you, will awake you, will show you a perspective on politics that almost nobody talks about, not in the TV shows, not in the newspapers. Probably your father didn't tell you this, although your father may be a very political man or woman. Also, your mother, not even your politics professors, they don't know a lot of what I will be teaching you today. Not even Biden, if you are in the United States right now, President Biden, he probably do not know what you will learn today. Not even Trump, not even Lincoln, not even I don't know who. I am not saying that this what I will be talking today, I am not saying that is something so occult that no one's know, but probably the ones that I mentioned, they didn't know, right? Because what I will be teaching you today is a very profound integration of holistic thinking that encompasses not only politics, but psychology, spirituality, sociology, consciousness, personal development. And when those guys go to politics, they kind of know about politics and about business and maybe a little bit about sociology, but that's it. And when you talk about spirituality with them, they only know religion, and religion is not the same as a spirituality. So I feel very, very, very excited today. Believe me, I have been working on this episode like for 1 year, and I was so afraid. Yeah, I am being vulnerable and real with you guys here. I was so afraid of talking about this episode because I know this is the beginning of new things in the Mastermind podcast and in my content in general, in which we are going also to include politics as one of the areas for personal development and collective expansion. And you may say, Derek, but that is not that far away of what you was doing already. But it is. It's kind of it is because it's like, oh man, I'm talking about politics and I have that, weird voice in my mind. Maybe that is only my mind, guys. This is just a projection. I am aware. I am just sharing with you my experience. I was delaying this episode, but you cannot delay God too much because then God will break your back. That's it. If you delay the inevitable, if you try to hide from your destiny, guess what? You get kicked in the butt. So, my friend, as always, as I always tell you, open your mind, open your heart, and open your notebook because today I will give a lot of references, and today you will this will be the first day of your renewed, your actualized, your profound, your holistic, your systemic, and your advanced political consciousness. Welcome, my friend, to the most transformative podcast in the world, the Mastermind Podcast. And this is the episode 526. Oh, I did that. I did that in a story. I kind of like that idea. All right, this is the episode 526. My name is Dr. Derek Israel. I am a psychologist, entrepreneur, and other people consider me as a light prism, someone that is radiating light as wisdom, radiating light as spirit, as new configurations that not only heal individual consciousness as you have, but also collective consciousness in order to reach new orders for humanity, more goodness, more compassion, more love, more integration, more art, more creativity, and more happiness. So, if you enjoy this podcast, remember that we are here every day, Monday through Friday at 4 a.m. MST, approximately live. But then you can listen to the episode on Spotify, in my YouTube channel, Amazon Music, SoundCloud, whatever. Okay. So, before we begin our expansion in political consciousness, let me remind you that I am about to launch my first book. This book has been proclaimed for the last 6 years. I'm very excited about it, and I will be launching this in the next few weeks. So as soon as I announce that, please buy that copy because I don't want you to be without one. And then you're gonna say, "Oh, Derek, you are a bastard. I was expecting that book, and you don't have anyone in stock." Hey, I'm just telling you, as soon as I announce, buy my new book, Terapia con Derek, Therapy with Derek, and your life will be transformed. It will be like having your own personal and individualized therapy with me in a form of a book. All right. It's going to be an amazing journey for you. So let's start with the podcast of today, shall we? Let's start with the material of today. So, the first thing that I want you to understand is what is political consciousness, okay? Because that will be the subject of today. And after I explain briefly this, I will give you 10 notes, okay, or 10 nucleus or 10 elements that you will install in your consciousness, and you will raise your political consciousness by understanding those 10 elements. And also I will give you at the end one bonus element or node of information that will, man, revolutionize forever your political consciousness. But basically, political consciousness is the state of awareness that you have as a human being, but also as a collective system. Like Puerto Rico has his own political consciousness as a country. Russia has its own political consciousness as a country. And we can say also that humanity as a human race, also we have like a collective political consciousness. So basically, political consciousness is how aware, all right, how aware and how sophisticated is our awareness in relation to politics. That's it. In relation to politics. And what is politics? Basically, politics are relationships based on power, social power for the development of communities and states, and ultimately a united human race. That is what politics is. So politics, is very complex, and it is not that easy to understand what is better for a certain culture or for a certain context in time, or for a certain type of country, right? And we have different systems like democracy or aristocracy or monarchy, and we have different parties, like we have the right and we have the left and we have the conservative and the liberalist, and different kind of parties in different nations with different colors, different representations, different symbols, different philosophies. And also politics, it is not separated from economical systems, it is not separated from marketing, it is not separated from religion, it is not separated from history, it is not separated from society as a whole, and from individual psychology, and from ecology and the environment, and from cosmology and how we can conquer space, and from art and the distribution of creativity and how we impact culture. And obviously it's not separated from culture. So understand this, my friend. Politics is just an underlaying system in all of those other systems that I just mentioned to you. Because without politics and government, all of those systems will be so corrupt that they will be impossible to do. Without politics and government, we will be so disorganized as a human species that we, for example, could not fund or could not, we will not be able to fund or create or sustain a principal religion. Like, for example, Christianity. Christianity is a very long religion. It's a very big religion. It's a very complex religion and has a lot of institutions. It has the Pope, it has the church, it has, the charity. It has a lot of things going on, right? That is only possible due to politics and government, because politics and government help humans to get along. Without politics and government, we will be in war with each other forever. Without government, if we study history, we are always in a continuous tribal war with each other. What we do as humans, we go in small groups because we, at the end of the day, we are social beings. So we are going to gather in small groups, maybe 100 men and women or less. That is called a tribe. And then that tribe will establish his own political order, but will not be like very organized, like a religion. No, it's just gonna be like a very centralized, kind of isolated system of political order. And those tribes will fight each other for resources without any existing law system that can modulate that, or that can mitigate that, or that can control that. And that's it. We're gonna be killing each other as we were before we create a central government that establish also systems for laws, systems for help, economical help, systems for order, like police, like firemen, okay, like hospitals, like public services, okay, like food stamps, schools, stuff like that, okay. So without government and politics, everything will be chaos. Now you may say, but Derek, with politics and government, everything is chaos. Yes, it is. But it's not the problem is not the politics and the government. The problem is the lack of consciousness. Listen what I'm saying. The problem is the lack of consciousness in the government and in the political processes that we are developing right now in our life. The problem is not per se or inherently or natively in the political process itself. It is in the consciousness of it. So if we raise consciousness, we develop better political phenomena. That is my statement. That is my hypothesis here. That is my thesis here in this podcast and in this analysis. All right. So politics and government is a necessary evil in this sense because we needed to be organized. We needed to sustain the systems that are making society run right now, the economical system, the electricity, transportation, uh, business. The fact that you are watching this video right now or hearing this podcast right now is a direct consequence of politics and government. And you may say, how, Derek? How the hell is that possible? It is because where do you think that you are receiving the internet from right now? Oh, well, Derek, I am receiving the internet from the company, the private company that I bought, that I'm paying every month. Yeah, but where do you think that that private company is doing business? Well, in my country. Okay, and how do you think that your country became a country in the first place? All right, Derek, yes, with government and politics. Sure, sure. So if government and politics are not a thing, internet, in this example, this is just a small sample, it will not be a thing. Because who will organize the internet? You? You will not do it because you will be so concentrated in resources, in finding food, in killing a bear to eat, in killing a horse to eat. Because remember, without politics, business is not going to be as usual. Walmart cannot exist without government. You cannot go to a Walmart and buy a chicken to eat without someone that is protecting Walmart for, from people that steal, people that harm, people that kill. We need police, we need systems for that. We need an agency that is regulating Walmart. Because for example, let's pretend that Walmart can exist without government, but then who regulates Walmart in order for them to give you a good chicken? Maybe they will sell you a bad chicken, and who you will go and say, hey, Walmart, this to me? To who? If government do not exist, if public institutions that regulate business do not exist, right? So let's say that Walmart sells you a bad chicken, a poison chicken, and your wife died because they sold you a bad chicken. And now you have a lot of angry inside you. What you will do if politics and government do not exist? I will tell you what you will do. You will grab a gun and you will go to Walmart and you will ask for the owner and you will kill the owner because there's no other justice system on place. Do you understand what I'm saying? But that is not the problem because in this example, you are the one who is doing the killing, right? You are the one who is in the offensive. But what happened when you are the one that is in the defensive part and someone else is going after your neck? Who you will call? I will call 911. No, 911 do not exist without politics, man. Police is only a function of politics. It's only a function of the police, of the state. Police, the whole goal of police is to maintain a fair, at least in the ideal form. I know that this is corrupt, but in the ideal form is to maintain a safe and an organized police. And police means state. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Politics is about societal organization. It is necessary for us to live the way that we are living, and also it's necessary for us to live better than we are actually living. And by you understanding these processes with a lot of depth, we can call this political consciousness. So consciousness is like an awareness of this whole process. In this episode, I will not teach you specific actions related to politics that you can do. Also, I will not teach you exactly how can you exercise your political power, because for that I will be by around that, I will be talking about that tomorrow in the episode that is called cultivate your political power. So stay tuned tomorrow. And in the future, I will be developing more in depth these constructs and this paradigm, this conscious paradigm, for you to have more pragmatic elements to do in politics, and you as a political animal and a political being. But in this podcast of today, in this specific episode, I just will concentrate on expanding your consciousness, because this is the first step. If you don't have consciousness of something, you don't change that something. If you don't have consciousness about your addiction, you don't erase your addiction. If you don't have consciousness about your poor sexual performance, you don't develop sexual mastery. You don't get interested in on it, because consciousness is the fire, is the spark that brings the motivation and the inspiration and the urgency to change, to change. So for me, it's the most intelligent manner that I can conduct this operation, this political and educational operation, is first step, upgrading your consciousness. And then I can work other things in the future with you. So let's do this right now. Let's discuss the 10 notes that will raise your consciousness, your political consciousness as hell. If you download these notes, if you learn them, if you meditate on them for the rest of your life, you will not get them, you will not get the whole picture and the whole implications of them right away. This is a continuous meditation for you. All right. But believe me, it will be all worth it. And remember that at the end, I have a bonus one that will help you to integrate everything that you are learning today. All right. Let's go with the first note. The first note, I already discussed it in an episode that it is called Tú eres un animal político. It's on Spanish and it's an old episode. It's an episode that I did in the Mastermind Podcast Challenge Season 1. And I think that this was the introduction for the political realm that we are going to be discussing in our work here in the personal development work that we are doing. But I didn't give too much details. I just focus on the central idea and that's it. So if you want to go to that episode, if you understand Spanish, you can go to that episode and you can deepen your knowledge in this idea, but I will repeat it here for you to have the knowledge, and also because it's central for everything else. And this is a very old idea. I think it was Plato who said it first, but at the end of the day, this is a very old idea and it's easy to understand. And the idea is that we are all, including you as well, a political animal. All right. We are all a political animal. And when we say, oh, we are all a social animal, we, sorry, we don't feel resistance on that, right? You don't get like kind of a little bit angry or a little bit defensive when someone tell you, man, you're a social beast. Maybe if they say that you're a beast, maybe you will get a little bit annoyed. But if someone tell you, man, you're a social being, you take that for granted and you say, yeah, sure, yeah, I'm a social being, why not? But if someone says to you, you are a political being, you may receive that a little bit kind of, what? No, I am not a political being. I am not a political man or woman. I am not running for office. I am not running for a place on government. I don't even vote, man. I don't go to vote. I don't believe in politics. So I am not a political man or I am not a political woman. You may say that. At least I used to say something like that before. But that is extremely wrong. And that just reflect extreme unconsciousness surrounded surrounding politics and psychology and who you are as a spiritual being. So the first thing that you need to understand is that you are not only a social being, but also you are a political being. As soon as social dynamics become complex, people want to assume power. I will repeat. As soon as social dynamics becomes very complex, like a lot of different communities living together or different tribes living together and different economical systems coexisting together and different businesses coexisting together and different families and relationships and sexual relationships, all of this bring crime, all of this bring war, all of this bring desire for power and ego stuff. So when social complexity becomes a thing, politics becomes a thing. And we are all subjected to this politics because even if you are only a normal citizen, you are still a citizen. From where this citizen word comes from city. And what is a city? A city is something, is a state, is something that is human made. A city do not exist in nature. Cities are made for us to be able to, in the ideal form, to have a better life, a more easier life, a life with the resources better distributed and more accessible. And we can kind of help each other in a place that we are protected. Because if we are in a forest or we are living in a cave or we are living in a beach, well, we are very subjected to the ecological forces. We are subjected to or submitted to what else? To animals, to the forces of nature, to different type of plants that can be deadly. We are exposed to the cold. We are exposed to the heat. But when we are in a city, when we are organized in a city, we can strive better. Okay, we can strive better. At least that is the thesis. I know that this sometimes can be, these points that I'm making, they can be debunked easily. I understand this. And they can be debunked with statistics and with things that sometimes is pointing to the other direction. Like you can say, man, but cities, they are cancerous. They produce this. They produce pollution. They produce that. They produce people that live in city are less happy. Blah blah blah. They are disconnected from nature. I know, but I'm just telling you like the thesis of the thing. So the thesis of the thing is that we are all submitted. We are all subjected to political processes and we cannot escape from them. And that makes you and me a political animal. We are animals living in political atmospheres, either if you like it or if you don't like it. That is the case. So if you understand this point, you will raise inevitably your political consciousness. Just notice how powerful this is. To understand, look at yourself at the mirror, and you will be looking at a political beast, even if you like it or you don't. You are a political beast. The second point that I want you meditating on to raise your political consciousness is that politics is one of the most profound and sophisticated forms of personal/universal development. And I will repeat this and I will make a story because I am promoting this podcast differently now. Let me repeat this point and bring it home. Politics is one of the most profound and sophisticated forms of personal slash universal development. One of the most profound. And I screwed that story. So, what I mean by this? So, what I mean is that if you saw the episode that is called Personal Development Imperialism, you understand what I am talking about. If you haven't thought or watched or studied profoundly that episode, please, my friend, please give yourself a favor and go and watch my episode whenever you have time, but do it quickly. That is called Personal Development Imperialism, because in that episode, I was preparing you for this one also, but the whole idea is that you can study different realms of existence and you can drag or subtract or distill personal development wisdom from everything. And you can do that studying cosmology. You can grow for by that, and you can grow by studying ecology. You can grow by studying sociology, psychology, and including politics. So when we are talking about politics, we are not only talking about collective growth, but also you can grow as hell by studying politics. If you start reading about it with high consciousness, not with a fanatical mind, as I will be discussing very soon in this episode, but if you start reading about politics, reading about political philosophy, reading about different economic systems and how they interconnect with politics, you will inevitably grow. You will become more advanced as a human being, as a person. So when we are talking about personal development, we are not just talking about meditation, yoga, journalism, reading books about business, about motivation, about inspiration. Yeah, that is a fundamental part. But you know what is also a fundamental part of personal development? Raising your political consciousness. That is also a fundamental part. And so many people is sending me messages saying, oh my God, Derek, you has changed so much in the last 2 years. Now you feel more holistic in your speeches. You feel more integrated. You feel more like a system kind of thinker. You are thinking in terms of systems. And that is so amazing. And I tell you guys, yes. And I tell you guys, yes, that is because I have been working on my political mind. And there is a good book that you can read that it is called Political Mind. Just buy that book and read it. You can raise your political consciousness with that book and with other books about politics. You see. So the reason that I say that this is one of the most sophisticated forms is because obviously when you have social complexity in the formula, it will be very sophisticated. All right. Because we are not only talking about one dude here. So, for example, if we are talking about biographies and studying biographies to grow, it is not that sophisticated because we are only studying one individual. And although every individual is a universe and infinitely sophisticated, don't get me wrong, but when we are talking about politics, we are talking about a lot of individuals interconnected, not only one country, but multiple nations, multiple countries, multiple continents, and not only one country in isolation, but also sometimes countries that are related to each other and they form highest orders of political systems. For example, the NATO, I think that is the NATO is, I think how you say it in English, in Spanish is OTAN, but that is like the union between United States and all the 30 countries that are related to them. When we study that, the NATO, I think that is the name. When we study that, we are studying a more complex entity than just studying President Biden, you know, because there's a lot more variables that compose that complexity. So that's why I say politics, this is one of the most sophisticated technologies. And change your mind, my friend. Politics is a technology. It's a human technology for human advancement and the creation and manifestation and maintenance of social and human civilization. All right. So that's why I say it's so sophisticated. And the reason that I say is personal slash universal development is because you cannot use politics only to develop yourself, because that is only your ego. That is only your ego talking. In reality, you should be expanding not only yourself through politics, but you will be expanding into the universe through politics. Because at the end of the day, the final stage of personal development is personal transcendence. And Maslow is one of the most, you know, magnificent pioneers of human psychology and personal development and human motivation. In the final days of his age, he realized that the ultimate stage of human consciousness, it is not self-realization as he was theorizing for his whole life, but he called it the final stage self-transcendence, because he understood that once you get realized as a human being, you must become the universe. You need to transcend the person. And personal development, guess what? Comes from that word, person, personal, person. But hey, at the end of the day, if you expand, 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 there is so much expansion that there's only so much expansion that you can do by your own and by your own personality. So what will happen is that your personality will become the universe. So that's why I say it's a universal development. Because what do you think will happen if a politician or a statesman or woman or a president has the universal mind? How different you think it will be his leadership? It will be a lot different. But sadly, most presidents in human history, they only have the personal mind. And more sadly, even, is that that personal mind is contaminated and ruled by their ego. So ego is reigning in politics. Ego is controlling politics, but in the ideal form, human or universal consciousness should be reigning and controlling and managing politics. But for that, we need to put people in power that have this type of consciousness and mind. The sad part is that we don't have a lot of candidates that have that kind of mind. And the other sad part of it is that also, if we have a candidate that have this state of mind, I don't know if most countries will be ready for that type of government, because people will say, oh my God, this type is so all over the place, he's not realistic, blah 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 blah, and they may vote against them, right? So maybe a conscious country that have more consciousness, like for example, I don't know, Switzerland, or maybe um, thinking about good countries, but it's so hard. I cannot say China. I cannot say United States. I cannot say Russia. I cannot say Iran. I cannot say Brazil. I cannot say India, right? So it's very difficult. It's very difficult to find a place in Earth that they are ready for this type of government, of high consciousness government that we are talking about. But hey, one thing is to be prepared, and one thing is to, to be oblivious or be denying this reality. So yes, the fact that we are not prepared do not mean that we are not supposed to try, and that we are not supposed to evolve until we are prepared. So this podcast, this episode, is an effort on that. It's an effort to raise consciousness, and hopefully one day we will be ready for better and more sophisticated universal kind of politics and government. The third note is that you are responsible of your agency and produce effects as a political actor. You are responsible of your agency and produce effects as a political actor. And yes, you are a political actor. And this word actor, I learned it from economics, studying, stock market and investments. And when they are talking about all the variables that are affecting how the economical processes develop, they refer to economical actors. So if you are investing, you are an actor. If you are retrieving your money, you are an actor. If you are conducting business and you have maybe your company public in the stock market, you are an actor. If you are a fund, like an exchange fund, like people that the exchange funds, basically what they do is that like they reunite different money of different investors and they decide where that money will be going as an investment. So you are investing in a fund, not in a specific company. So that is another subject. I will not discuss this here. Maybe in the future I will be discussing, definitely in the future I will be discussing economical aspects of personal development and economical aspect of spiritual expansion and stock market investment, Bitcoin. So stay tuned. I am expanding to different realms. I'm evolving, and you will evolve with me also. So, but yeah, you are a political actor, and you have the responsibility of doing this the best as you can. And some of you may be seeing this and you will have like a more protagonist role as a political actor. Some of you will actually go to government and work there. Maybe some of you will become an office man, like not like in the presidency, but maybe you will work in a office of the government. Well, you are a political actor then. Maybe you will be like a senator, well, or maybe you will be like the governor of your state, or in Puerto Rico of your town. Maybe you will be the president of a certain political organization, or maybe you will be an economical actor that is supporting a political party, or maybe you will be a marketer that is supporting with marketing a political party, or criticizing or trying to destroy another political party. At the end of the day, dude, you are a political actor. Even when you are just taking out your Facebook and writing a status about how bad is Biden or how bad is Trump, you are being a political actor because you are participating in the political drama. All right. And I have a very important spiritual episode that is called El Drama de la Vida, the drama of life, and in Spanish. Sorry, guys, if you are only English, but hey, listen to that episode for you to understand better the dynamics and mechanisms behind the existential drama. But politics is also a drama, and politics is also a game. For more information about how existence is also a game, please hear my episode titled "Why Reality Will Turn into a Video Game." Why reality will turn into a video game. And that episode is on English. So you can kind of understand that one if you are only an English speaker. So politics is a game, politics is a drama, and you are a participant on it every time that you do certain acts. Every time that you pay your taxes, you are a political actor. Every time that you receive a ticket in the transportation roads, or like a ticket, you are being a political actor because you are being affected by the police. Every time that you go to war, or that you inscribe in the military complex system, industrial complex system, you are being a political actor. So you cannot escape this. So what you can do is become more responsible of what you do with your agency. So you are having an effect in this whole system. You will have a certain effect in this globalized system. Every element is important. So what you do with your energy, what you do with with your political responsibility, that will make a lot of change in human consciousness and political consciousness and collective expansion. So do well, my friend. Please, if you are listening to this podcast, if you are getting more aware, if you are getting more in tune with the power of politics for human transformation, please be more responsible as a political actor. That's it. No huge deal. And maybe for you, this will be go and voting, to go and vote, to go and study the different candidates. Maybe for you, this will be to watch the debates. And maybe for you will be, doing a blog about politics. Or maybe for you will be doing a podcast about politics and sharing your ideas. Or maybe for you, this will be just raising your family, raising your children with political consciousness as a value of the family. For you and what you will do with this responsibility, this is your problem. I don't want to say that in a rude way, but I would just want to say this is a decision that you need to make for your own. But you need to make it because I depend on it. I depend on your responsibility for being the best political actor that you can be. And you depend on me that I am being the best political actor that I can be for us as a collective group, as a community, as a human species, for us to grow and to evolve and to expand and to get away from extinction. The next point is that through government and politics, consciousness gain consciousness of itself. So now we are going very deep. Now we are starting to go to the intimate waters of politics. So, hey, at the end of the day, what is the ultimate substance of reality? Just a random question. Because we need to ask that. If we are studying government, we need to ask, okay, what is government? Well, government is a political institution that is trying to solve collective problems in reality. And you say, okay, so that means that reality exists. So what is reality? And you will say, well, reality is this or that, whatever you will say. But then you need to ask, and what reality is made of? If you want to understand the macro, the government, you need to understand the micro, the unit, the metaphysical unit of existence. It doesn't make sense that you will try to understand a castle if you don't understand the blocks that builds the castle. Do you understand? You cannot understand fully the heart if you don't understand the cells that controls the heart. You cannot understand, um, let's say, you cannot understand digital marketing if you don't understand social media. So first, we need to understand the basis of it, the basics. So what I have been discovering in my life with a lot of spiritual work, with a lot of yoga, with a lot of meditation, traveling, spiritual retreats, altered state of consciousness, pranayamas, and different stuff that I teach you guys here in the podcast and in my other content, what I have been discovering is that consciousness and love is the ultimate substance of reality. Basically, that is the definition of God. Love that is conscious and active. So it's very beautiful to understand that everything in existence cannot escape consciousness. Because if you are not attending a thing, the thing do not exist. You only create the thing when you are putting your consciousness on it. And we know that by quantum physics. All right. So every political processes Every political process is just a process of consciousness. It is consciousness organizing itself through individuals, parties, and through political parties and through humans. But we humans, we are like instrument and carriers and also producers of this light, of this consciousness, of this love, of this awareness, of this sublime principle that we have been for our entire history as human beings trying to discern. We have been trying to express, we have been trying to explain, and we have put it different names. Some of it call this consciousness God, some of them call it, I don't know, universe or spirit or whatever, but it is the same thing. It's different words for the same sublime, mysterious, esoteric, mystical kind of principle that is underlying the fabric of reality itself. So politics is just a emergent component of metaphysical reality itself. Therefore the substance or the substratum or the basic of or the fundamentals of politics and government is consciousness. So every political process is only consciousness trying to become more conscious. The way that every action that you do in your life is just consciousness trying to become more conscious of itself. Have you ever heard this spiritual quote that it says that, the universe is discovering itself through you? It is the same. The universe, it is discovering itself through you and also through political processes. So every time that you are perceiving for now on a political phenomena, remember, this is not political. This is consciousness. This is a way that consciousness is manifesting itself. It is a spirit. So sometimes to discover itself, consciousness do crazy things. For example, sometimes psychologically, if a consciousness want to discover more of itself, it may goes to a psychological crisis. And so maybe you can experience a splitting in your personality. This is very uncommon. All right. This is so uncommon, but it may happen. Like you may have a split in your personality and you may have two different personalities. And that may be kind of a consciousness attempt from consciousness to discover more about itself, to discover more about this polar side of your psychology or this specific side of your psychology, but also to discover a different kind of part of your psychology. And that's why it did that. It split it, and then it can become very problematic also, and you can have a personality disorder, and you may spend your whole life with a psychiatrist. But if you can kind of resolve that problem and you can unite your personality again, then you will become more whole and you will understand better yourself. You will be a more individualized man, a more integrated woman. You will be a more holistic human being because consciousness with that struggle became more organized. It developed a meta order of consciousness. Well, in politics, it's the same. For example, the war of Ukraine versus Russia is very sad, man. It's very sad. But at the same time, if we perceive the war as a consciousness trying to discover itself, we can see the value of the war. It is not a pretty war, but it has value in the sense that we can understand better ourselves, we can develop better technologies, and we can progress. Because war, this is what I think with war is not everything bad. Conflict, conflict give us the opportunity to expand our capabilities. When we feel that we are competing, we can expand our capabilities. Let's say in Ukraine, they are solidifying their national identity so much, they are discovering more than ever their national identity. Do you think that is a bad thing or a good thing? Well, it's relative. But for them, it's a good thing because they feel more Ukraine than ever. Why? Because of the war, because they are defending their land. So it's consciousness discovering consciousness, consciousness becoming more aware that in consciousness you can become more identified with your nation and you can defend your nation and you can go to war for your nation. And maybe Russia is understanding different things. They are discovering themselves better. Putin is discovering itself better. He's exploring different parts of his mind, of his consciousness during this war. And please stay away from morals here. If you want to really understand the big picture and the holism of politics, stay away of moral for a second, and you will appreciate better what I'm trying to teach you here about consciousness, understanding consciousness better. The next point is that the ultimate goal of politics is and government is love, integration, and union. So, if you understand evolution and if you understand consciousness, you understand that it's inevitable that we are walking into a path of ultimate union and integrity. This is because we are made from an image of God, and God is the perfect unity. So we cannot be here being mini gods, like being mini avatars of God, made of His assemble, made of His image, made of His spirit, and pretend that we are not going into the same place, to the same state as God, ultimate union and love. So that is our path here, folks, that we are walking towards that. Hopefully we are gonna make it. When? I don't know. We are all trying to give our grain of sand and trying to do the best that we can. At least I know that I'm trying to do it through my through my content, through my art. But you as well need to do your work. So at the end of the day, and in the ultimate analysis, government is just another way in which reality or existence is trying to merge in infinite love. But that way to infinite love is very full of ego and power dynamics and about selfishness. And I'm thinking about something I wanted to tell you because yesterday I discussed a little bit about power dynamics. So if you want to know better about that, you can watch the episode that is called Enjoy Your War for Idea Supremacy. Enjoy Your War for Idea Supremacy. In that episode, in the 525, I discussed a little bit about power dynamics. But yes, folks, I want you to understand politics in a macro perspectival way, understanding that this is the story of humanity trying to love each other. There is, but we don't know how to love each other. That's why we have conflict. So the problem is not love. The problem is, again, our lack of consciousness that do not permits us or do not propel us to express our consciousness in a more lovable and mature way. So if you want to understand better this, please, this is an privilege and almost mandatory episode that you need to listen. It is called The True Nature of War. What is the true nature of war? And it's a very political episode also, and it's on English. So go there and watch it. So in that episode, I told you and I taught you that war at the end of the day is just an attempt of loving each other, but in a very immature way. Well, politics is the same. It's an attempt to spiritualize and get to love the all, but in a very immature way for now. So let's bring the example of marriage. You know that marriage, the ultimate goal of marriage is sanctity, is to become holy, is to become merged spiritually with your partner. But do you know how many struggles you will have until you reach that point? You will have a lot of different egos, troubles, ego confrontations, different styles, different discussions, different sexual preferences, different this, different that. You will have a struggle. The same is with politics. Remember, in politics, government is married with the people. It is a marriage also. So everything is struggling for more union, but the way to the union, the way to the love, the way to the high consciousness is very, very harsh. And we need to understand this. This is human nature. We have been like this forever, and we're going to continue like this until we transcend our consciousness. And it's not about you transcending, only you. You already transcended, I guess, or probably. If you're watching this podcast and meditating all the days of your life, you are probably very advanced. But we are talking about transcending everyone. Like the little kid that is on India right now that doesn't have a cell phone, how he can transcend. The little girl that is in Peru right now, and she's not watching the podcast, how she can transcend. The little guy that is working his ass off on North Korea, how he can transcend. It's complex. It's complex. It's not only about, oh, we need to transcend. It's not hippie philosophy here, my friend. It's systematic thinking. So I'm not proposing solutions in this podcast of how we can transcend all. I'm just trying to raise consciousness. In the future, I will try to attack with more precision, different policies and different tactics of how we can may address this human consciousness advancement project that we are all involved with. The next point is that lack of consciousness corrupt agents of political transformation. Lack of consciousness corrupt agents of political transformation. So you may say, Derek, this makes sense, but it is not practical. Because when I see my government, Derek, I only see corruption. I only see people lying, manipulating, persuading with rhetoric, but a rhetoric based on lies. They are stealing money. They are affecting the poor people and getting rich themselves. For me, Derek, that is not human consciousness. That is just human growth. That is just human nastiness. That is just human I don't want to say shit, but I need to say it. Human shit. Yeah, you're right. You are definitely right. And I come from a place that is so corrupt, man. Puerto Rico, there's no one politician there that is high conscious that at least I am aware of. I may be wrong. I may be wrong, but I don't know any politician that have this kind of knowledge that I'm trying to transfer here. So I know corruption is a thing, it's an egoic thing, it's an ego, it's a function of the ego. And it's only possible when you don't have high consciousness in politics as an individual and as a universal being. Because if you have high consciousness, it is impossible for you to become corrupt. Why? Because consciousness will bring integrity to your mind and your spirit. And when you have integrity, and I have an episode on Spanish about integridad, escúchalo en mi canal de YouTube o en Spotify, busca Mastermind Podcast Integridad, and I will be doing another episode on English, a more fully explained episode about integrity very, very soon. So stay tuned. But when you have high consciousness, you have a lot of integrity. And when you have a lot of integrity, who the hell will corrupt you? Who the hell? There's no money that will be able to corrupt your verticality. There is no fame. There is not sexual favor. There's nothing, man. because you are operating in God mode. And very soon I will be doing an episode about what is to be operating on God mode. So stay tuned. This is the most transformative podcast in the world. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, there is no other podcast so transformative as this one. So I'm telling you, share this, spread the word, listen to every episode. You will change. Eventually, you will transform. You become high consciousness. So most of people that are corrupt, they are corrupt because they are lacking consciousness. If they meditate on the points that I am sharing with 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 them today, they inevitably will become more integrated, more lovable, more conscious, and they less and then less corrupt. Because in proportion of how the ego is going down, corruption is going down. In proportion of how the ego is going up, corruption is going up. So let's get rid of ego by expanding consciousness. The next point is that is that political partidism or fanatism reflect lack of integrative, systemic, and holistic consciousness. I will repeat: political partidism or fanatism reflect lack of integrative, systemic, and holistic consciousness. So what I mean by political partidism, hey, being very fanatic of the right, but hating the left. In Puerto Rico, being very fanatic of los populares, that is like the populars, or, that is a political party, or being very fanatic of PNPs or independentistas, whatever, but lacking the awareness of understanding that the other party also have a good point. So I come from a family that they are fanatical. So that's why maybe I'm just thinking about myself here. That's why maybe I was not so interested in politics when I was uh, growing up, because it didn't feel right what was happening on my house. Um, on my house, they are very fanatical of only one party. In my house, they are populares, and that's it. They don't listen to other parties. They don't listen to an independent candidate that he may or she may represent advancement. They don't will listen. They only listen to the party. And that is a very unconscious way of doing politics, because you are trusting an ideal, not consciousness. And although consciousness is an ideal, it is the ultimate form of ideal. And also, it is supposed also to transcend the ideal and to be extremely practical. And this is just very, very obvious because ideals give us direction. So that's why we're going to become very identified with different parties. But as soon as you start raising your consciousness, you start you start noticing the defects and the errors and the weakness of character of your own political party or your own movement. For example, if you are a liberalist, or if you are a conservative, or if you are a or if you are on the right or in the left, you will understand that you have some weaknesses as a movement, and you will also know acknowledge that the other parties have things that are good, and you will finally acknowledge that the real partidism is the human partidism. It is the party that take into consideration every human being as a global thing, as a universal thing. So if you're a very fanatic of a certain politician or a certain party, that is reflecting lack of political consciousness. Just try to work better at it. Just try to study political philosophy, meditate on it, and watch a lot of my political podcasts that I will be shooting in the future, because you need to become more responsible and more holistic and more systemic in your thinking. And what I mean by systemic is that you understand that everything in life is systems with systems interconnecting with other systems. And by you only manipulating one system, you will not solve all the systems. So that is systemic thinking in terms of systems. So if you are only focusing one party slash one system, you will not be able to solve the ultimate system. For solving the ultimate system, you need to take into consideration all the systems, take the better of each system, and to create a supra or meta system that can actually sophisticate the other systems that that system connects with. And I will be doing an episode about system theory in the future in another product that I will be launching in 2023, if God give me the power to do that. Oh my God, this is one of the most powerful podcasts that I have ever shoot or record. I hope that you are enjoying this, my friend. I hope that you are blowing your mind and thinking new ideas about politics. Uh, this is the whole objective. So the next point is that there is a difference between a politician and a statesman, and the ultimate statesman is a global or universal man. So I was reading a book yesterday that is called Power versus Force. Power versus Force. And in that book, I recommend that book hugely. And in that book, and also Aristotle in his book about politics, he talked about the difference between the statesman and the politician. The politician is the one that is always egoic. He's thinking about itself first. It sounds familiar? He's thinking about his own agenda. He's thinking about his own resources. He's thinking about lobbying. He's thinking about uh, connections, networking, fame, reputation, business, everything that will self serve him. That is a politician. But politicians, they do not have the maximum power because they are so egoic, and always the ego becomes a liability, and you will become limited by your ego because ego by definition is limited. It is individual. It's what makes you you, and you are limited. But you become if you become the universe, then you are kind of unlimited. And if you become the multiverse and the infinite multiverse, you are unlimited. But that is a spiritual stage. But, anyways, you can decide to be a politician. Let's say that you are thinking about running for office. Maybe you want to be president or governor or senator or whatever. Maybe you are thinking about it. You have two ways to do this. You can become a politician and trying to persuade your way into the top, or you can become a state man, state woman, or state intersexual individual. And that is someone that really his power comes from the people. And his power comes from love. And the power comes from freedom. And the power comes from principles, not from politics, not from ego. You are not a politician. You are a state man, woman, or intersexual being. You are thinking about the community first. You are really putting the people first. All right. And you are anchoring your spiritual center in the solidarity of being a human. That is huge power. Think about Gandhi. He was a politician, definitely. He was a political leader, a non-violent political leader. Please study Mahatma Gandhi's story. Just go to a documentary and study. But notice how he was a state man. His power came from God. His power came from his principles, his values, his constitutional values. If you want to know more about that, listen my episode called Constitutional Values. And the second part of that episode is called Divine constitutional values. Those are the values that are creating your core as a human being. And when you connect with those values, you can project your best version into the world, and you can transform the world because you have power to do it. You have a solid foundation to work with. My friend. So if you are running for office, make sure that you are not a politician and you are a state man, state woman, or state intersexual. That you really are vibrating from your, from a just nucleus, from a fair nucleus of vibration or attractor. And I will be doing, I don't know if in this podcast or maybe in the next project, but I will be doing an episode about attractors. That is patterns of energy in which you can vibrate from. So just study spiritual attractors or vibrational attractors or systemic attractors. It's a very interesting and fascinating subject of personal development and spiritual expansion. So by being a state man, woman, or intersex, basically you are vibrating from from a noble cause, and that is what is driving your politics. And then you become very powerful as a politician or a statesman. Okay, and you can do better work. And the last, before the bonus, note is that politics is just another realm of the manifestation of God. Ta-da! Hallelujah! Amen! 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 Yeah, amen. Politics is just another realm of the manifestation of God. So I always tell you, economics, that is another realm of the manifestation of God. Marketing, sales, and business development, that is another realm of the manifestation of God. Ecology, cosmology, culture, psychological processes, that is another manifestation of the realm of God. And politics also. So when we are talking about politics, we are talking about God and how God is trying to organize itself in this game that he invented because he was so bored. Right? Why he invented this game? Because God is all. So God is just playing with itself, and government is just part of his play. That's why government is a game, but it's a very serious game. At the same time, it is not serious at all. That is one of the divine paradoxical truths of life, because every divine truth is paradoxical. Like you are all, but you are finite. Yes, that is paradoxical, but that is also true. What else? You was born and you die. Yeah, that's true, but it's not true at the same time. You have been here forever. As a spirit, you will never die as a spirit, but at the same time, you die and you are born as a human. So yes, they are both true. That is a paradox. That's why it is truth. Because if it is truth, it is a paradox. It is a conjunction of the opposites, as in the alchemy it is called. All right. And I have an episode on Spanish that is called Los Opuestos. Búscate en mi canal de YouTube, Derek Israel Opuestos, and listen that episode about, no recuerdo exactamente cómo se llama, pero algo de los opuestos. And in that episode, I explain how every opposite collapses with the other opposite, making a very beautiful conjunction. And God, through politics, is also a beautiful conjunction and something that you need to respect and love and perceive as a God's work. As that God works. So I promised you a bonus, huh? I promised you a bonus. This is the bonus, and you already know it, but this bonus will give you like the final bullet for this whole perspective, political advanced perspective to kick in your soul and in your spirit. And this is the bonus one, my friend. This is the bonus one, my friend. Is the following. the following: in politics, as in everything else in existence, I will repeat, in politics, as everything else in existence, ego is the enemy. This is the bonus. Ego in politics is the enemy as everything else. What is the enemy? Um, in personal development, your ego. What is the enemy in your relationship with your wife, with your husband? Your ego. What is your enemy in the relationship with your daughter or your son? Your ego. What is the enemy in your business expansion? Your ego. Because your ego have fears and identifications and corrupt moralities. So everything is the ego's fault, huh? Well, mostly everything, right? So in politics, ego is the enemy also. So understand that, man, this is gonna be huge. In proportion for you, in proportion of the dissolvement of your ego, you will raise your political consciousness. So you need to dissolve your ego as the best as you can if you want to become a better political actor. My friend, please share this episode. If you watch it entirely, you understand by now the importance, the supra importance of this episode for not only politicians to hear it and study it, but also for common folks to understand these principles as well. And with your sharing, and if you have the proactivity of literally send it privately to some friends of yours or maybe someone that is in government, please do that, my friend. Please do that, because this is the way that we are trying to evolve consciousness in this game of politics and government. So also leave your comments below. What other notes do you think are critical for us to raise our political consciousness? And also give your thoughts. If you differ with me, that's okay. If you think that this episode is diluted and is unpractical, that's okay. Just give your thoughts. I want to know your opinion. And at the end of the day, conversation is what, make change, make huge change. So let's converse. Let's dialogue. Let's have a dialogue. So also, let me remind you that this podcast, it is supported by Patreon, and this podcast can remain free because people is donating on Patreon. So if you want to donate only $5 per month, you can do it. The link is in the description, and you will be receiving exclusive benefits, exclusive content if you become one of our Patreon supporters. So if you are enjoying and you want to give back to this podcast, everything that is doing for you and for the world, hey, support us on Patreon. And also visit derekisrael.com. There you will find all the courses that I have: sexual mastery course, life purpose course, meditation course, how to be a top content creator course, the self-love course. Every book that I will be launching will be there. Terapia con Derek, Bestia versus Dioses, every book. Also in English, I will be translating my books. And every project, NFT-based project, or any other business that I will be developing in the future, and other shows, everything will be in derekisrael.com. So visit there, and remember, it is your duty to expand your political consciousness. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about political power. And also, I will do in the future another episode about political intelligence. So stay tuned to the most transformative